So these are things that the average person is doing that has a direct impact on our ability to create wealth. Number one, let's get straight into it. Lifestyle inflation. You've heard of lifestyle inflation before. Most of us have been victims of lifestyle inflation. It's usually when your income goes up, but instead of saving or investing that extra cash, most people spend that difference by upgrading their life. For example, if you get a raise at work or you stumble across some money, most people tend to say, oh, well, I deserve a bigger car. I deserve a better house. I need to upgrade my handbag collection. The problem with that is you're not building wealth. You're just spending it. So you're spending the money or the opportunity that was created or available for you to create wealth. You're spending it, you're spunking it, you're splashing it. And this is keeping people poor. Really interesting, the average Brit spends around 29% more when their salary increases. So instead of putting that money to work for you, it ends up disappearing into things like fancy dinner, upgrading your wardrobe, new fancy toys and gadgets. And this is keeping people poor. A very simple way to deal with that is if you have an increase in salary or you make more money, you should save or invest. Invest is preferable, but you should save or invest at least 50% of that increased amount of money before you upgrade anything in your life. That one simple step will put more money in your pocket and help you start your journey to creating wealth. Number two, and this is very popular, and we're all guilty of this, believe in the social media lies. On social media, everyone seems to be a billionaire, so therefore we desire to be a billionaire also. And on social media, everyone has a Rolex, not knowing that most people have got their Rolexes from Turkey. Social media only portrays the pretty picture, the fancy picture. It shows people traveling around the world, 17-year-olds in Lamborghinis, 18-year-olds with 10 Gucci handbags. But the reality is a lot of it is fake. So I came across a study in the UK and it said around 40% of people admitted to faking their lifestyle online. 40%. Nearly 50%, nearly half. Yet many of us fall into this trap of thinking that that's real life. And that leads us to spending money unnecessarily to try and keep up. So you're going to work extremely hard to buy a handbag that costs £1,000 when the person that's inspired you has picked up their bag from Turkey. Let me tell you a funny story. I was in Turkey a few months ago and I was walking through the marketplace and someone showed me an Instagram account of someone with over 1 million Instagram followers who regularly buys fake handbags from Turkey and promotes it on their social media. This causes us to chase these unattainable items and unattainable lifestyle and puts pressure on us to buy into a very materialistic lifestyle, and it causes greater debt, which ultimately means you stay poorer. My simple solution is, before you are tempted to buy anything you see on social media, ask yourself a very simple question. Am I buying this to impress anyone else, or am I buying this because I genuinely need it? Now, that simple question, the additional pause, will usually bring you back to earth. And in many cases, you will realize that you don't need that specific item or that specific lifestyle that you're about to spend your money on. Number three, keeping up with the Joneses. The truth is, it's not just social media. We do it in real life. If your neighbor buys a brand new car, you start to feel that your banged up Ford Fiesta, if you drive a Ford Fiesta, that's not a dig at you, but you start to feel that your car isn't as adequate. You start to feel that whatever you have is not good enough. And the problem is, when you are constantly comparing yourself to other people, you lose control of your financial decisions and reasonable financial decision making skills, because it's emotive, it's based on emotion, and it's based on wanting to fit in. And wanting to fit in has very costly implications. So how do we deal with this? Well, it's really simple, and a large majority of the UK hate budgeting, but a budget is what's going to help you not spend when you don't need to. So create a very simple budget. Create the budget and stick to a budget. Learn to be content with what you have rather than falling into this trap, this evil trap of wanting what other people have, which in most cases they can't afford themselves. Number four, avoid buy now, pay later. This is crucial information. Buy now, pay later is one of the reasons many people are poor. As much as it comes across as a helpful service where you can pay for something later and get that item today, it can have a very devastating impact. Buy now, pay later creates this sense of affordability. It makes you feel as if you have more money available or you have more money in your pocket and therefore you can afford this item, when in reality, you can't afford it. A study by Citizens Advice found that 1 in 4 people that use buy now, pay later in the UK borrow more than they can afford to repay, which leads to financial stress later down the line. Buy now, Pay later is one of the easiest way to fall into debt and keep you poor, because you have the ability to spend money that's not yours and money you don't have available, and in the vast majority of cases, money that you will not be able to repay. This very bad habit of buy now, pay later has snowballing effects, because you might have to borrow more money, pay off your original buy now, pay later repayments. Look, the very simple solution here is, if you can't afford to buy something, you can't afford to buy it. Now, I know it's simple. If you genuinely can't afford to pay for it today, don't buy it. Buy now, pay later is generally just another form of debt. And what's fascinating is the usage of buy now, pay later is usually for fast fashion. Things that don't last, things that don't hold value, things that have no real value. Therefore, you are accruing debt for something that you're likely to throw away after minimal usage. I would go as far as to say a very large majority of people are poor because they don't auto save or auto invest. Most people in the UK live paycheck to paycheck, even when they don't have to. And this is often because they're not saving or investing a small portion of their salary automatically. The vast majority of us don't have the discipline to pay our bills, invest some money, and carry on with our lives. Whereas smarter, more savvy investors and people that don't want to remain poor, or people that want to create wealth, have this understanding that money should automatically be put into your savings or automatically invested as opposed to manually. Because when it's manually, your brain comes into play and your brain says, hey, you might need that money later, don't invest it. But if it's done automatically, you have no control over it. According to a recent study, only 55% of adults in the UK save regularly, which means most people are not taking advantage of compound growth. So how can you create wealth, or how can you change your life if number one, you're not investing, and number two, you're not benefiting from compound growth? The truth is this: when you automate your savings or automate your investments, you're prioritizing yourself. You're saying, I need to look after my future. Therefore, before I pay anything, I will invest this money. That's the discipline that the rich, the wealthy, and the financially educated have. A really simple way to deal with this is to set up a direct debit that either goes into savings or goes into an investment, and it can be anything from 5%, 10%, even 20% of your salary. If it's automated, you wouldn't miss it because it's automated. It automatically comes out, just like your rent comes out, your mortgage comes out, your bills come out, and it builds a habit. Therefore, you do it for the long term. One of the reasons I found that many people stay poor is because they don't address the issues right in front of them. Simply meaning they don't open their bank statement and go through their bank statement and identify their money and spending habits. The reality is this: if you don't know where your money is going and what's coming in and what's being spent and what's being wasted, how do you have a plan? How do you have a budget? How do you have a system in place to keep you from being poor? Most people don't check their bank statements because they're actually scared of what they're going to see. So they rather bury their heads in the sand and carry on in life, knowing fully well that if they looked at their bank statement, it will force and cause a change. And this is why you should look at your bank statement at least once, if not twice per month. If you're really serious about changing your financial trajectory, you should be looking at your bank statement at least once a week. Get a highlighter and go through it every single week and do two things. Look for where you are wasting money or overspending money, and look for tiny bits of money that can be automated or invested or saved. When you ignore what's going on in your bank statement, it's like trying to drive a car with your eyes closed. You have no clue where you're going, and it's likely to cause some form of financial accident. If you don't check your bank statement regularly, you might miss fraudulent transactions. You might miss subscriptions that you no longer use that you're still paying for. And this is money that you could use to save or invest. Set a reminder to check your bank statement at least once a week. This simple habit will keep you in check. This simple habit will change the way you behave with money. This simple habit will put more money in your pocket and keep you from being poor. Number 7, we all know this, we've heard it a million times. Stop making the minimum payments on your credit card. Now, again, it's easier said than done. I understand people are barely surviving in this current climate. But if your minimum payment is £25, if the best you can do is £26 or £27, make sure you are not making just the minimum payments. Try your best to eat into that interest by making small, tiny additional payments. Making minimum payments is one of the greatest traps that keeps people poor. In fact, this should be number one. For some people, you might say, I can only afford to make the minimum payments. Some people might think, oh, well, if I make the minimum payments, I'm at least controlling my level of debt. But all you're doing is you're stretching out the debt for longer and you're paying significantly more over a longer period of time. If the average interest rates on credit cards is 15, 20, 25% in the UK, it means your debt can quickly spiral out of control. And if you're only making the minimum payments, it can take you years, in some cases decades, to clear a balance of just £1,000. Look, very simple, again, easier said than done. But this is one of the biggest issues that keeps people poor. So try your best to pay a little bit more than the minimum payments. Even better, if you can, pay off the full balance. And if you are already in debt, and if you would like me to create a video on how to climb out of debt, let me know in the comment section below. But if you are already in debt, try your best to prioritize high interest repayments to avoid getting into greater debts. Find which credit card has the higher interest rate, and that's the credit card, and that's the debt that you want to start chipping away at and making greater repayments. Hey guys, if you get some value from this video, make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. I would love to hear your thoughts in the comment section below.